Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hello and welcome to Your Stocks. I'm Nigel D'Souza. With me is Ekta Batra. As we speak, the Nifty moves back into the green, so that's pretty good news. Let's pull up the Nifty. That's, it's doing a bit of a fight back. It's up close to around 8 points. I'm looking at the option space very closely. So you pull up the India VIX. Normally when you have the Nifty in the green, you'll see that the VIX ideally should be in the red because there's an inverse relation there. So the Nifty in fact comes up for you. The VIX, that is up close to around 1% approximately. So what's happening is there's a lot of action on the put side as well. The IVs over there are moving higher as well. But in today's trade, it appears that that 10,100 put, that's most likely to be getting written. So, traders looking out there, they're looking to eat into that premium and hoping that the 10,050, 10,060 levels hold out. But even though the Nifty is in the green, the 10,200 call should come up for you. Ideally, with that strike being only around 40 points away from, from the current levels, the Nifty is at around 1,150 approximately. And, we should be making money over there. But that's telling you that the 10,200 call is getting written with the Nifty up 10 points. And still, in fact, you're not making money on that particular strike. It appears that the smarter money believes that the 10,250 level should hold out, as a bit of resistance, at least in the near term. Ekta.
Hi, Nigel. Well, if you're talking about specific stocks now, it's turning out to be an even more exciting day, despite the consolidatory sort of trend that we're seeing for our market. So just look at the move that we're seeing on Tata Motors today. That one is up around 5-odd%. Tata Motors DVR up around 3-odd%. GAIL, which is fired up after that brokerage report. So that too is up around 2.5-odd%. And something like Coal India, which is down around 2.5-odd% at this point in time. So a lot of specific stocks to talk about, but these are top stories that we're tracking this afternoon. Markets turn positive as PSU banks erase losses. Mid-caps outperform marginally. Morgan Stanley's Ruchir Sharma cautions that an overheated financial market is a threat to global economic stability.
And in a mega CNBC TV18 exclusive, L&T's executive chairman, Mr. A.M. Nayak, says that the conglomerate can actively consider buying a stake in BEML, but certainly not in Air India. Pegs a target of around 50,000 crores market cap for the finance business over the next 2 years.
Tata Motors is in top gear after promoters buy 1.7% equity at 425 rupees per share. The large trade takes the total promoter holding up to 36.4.
And NHAI scales down the construction target for FY18 to 3,500 kilometers from around 6,000 kilometers earlier. They also confirmed to CNBC TV18 that they will launch the IPO this year.
JP Group stocks like JP Associates and JP Infratech tank in trade. CNBC TV18 learns that all the lenders to the debt-ridden group are set to meet today to take stock of claims of all creditors. That's an exclusive. Okay, well, those are the top stories that we're tracking this afternoon. But joining us this afternoon, we have Sharmila Joshi on the fundamentals and Rajat Bose to answer all of your stock queries on the technicals. Afternoon, Sharmila as well as Rajat. Well, let's get going in terms of the first caller that we have. Dhaval Dudagara calls us from Rajkot with a query. Investments in Diwan Housing. Hi, Dhaval. Okay, well, we've lost that line with on Dhaval. So anyway, let's take the query. Buy price 234, quantity is 100. Sitting on a profit right now, a huge one you'd have to say considering the buy price. So Sharmila, what would you do? What would you recommend further buying at current levels? Would you recommend taking profits? What would the call be?
I think as you rightly mentioned, he's gotten at a very good price. And then, in the interim, we have a market which has pretty much is running ahead of itself, especially as far as a lot of these mid caps are concerned. So I think keeping that in mind and the fact that I like housing finance as a sector, and I think even within that space, DHFL certainly is a stock that I've recommended at 400 sort of levels. I think he just stays put at this point in time. Since he's a long-term investor, I think he just continues to ride the profit, because it would be very difficult really to suggest what to sell a stock bought at such a good price, and where do you invest the money going forward. So I think for the moment he just continues to hold the stock.
Okay, all right. Continue to hold the stock at current levels. That's a fundamental view. I think we have Rajat as well with us. Rajat, the housing finance companies, DHFL, what's your advice here?
housing finance companies are all in a strong uptrend, and so is the case with DHFL. In fact, DHFL is one of the leading companies in that pack and is also firming up pretty strongly. So I would put a stop loss at 550 and ask him to hold on. 550 is the level that should not be breached if the momentum continues to be there. So if 550 gets breached, then he should book his profits because he is sitting on very good profits. Use 550 as the stop loss, continue to hold on.
Okay, all right. So that's the view coming in on Divan Housing. Well, let's get to another query then. Sanjay writes to us from Mumbai. He wants to invest 3 lakh in MRF for a longer term and wants to know when is the right time to enter the market. So, what would you recommend on that one, Sharmila?
So, really what we've seen on all these tire stocks is that every time you see, market sort of going up, you have to see a rally in all the tire stocks. And this in spite of the fact that I would say a lot of the positives are now in the price, whether it is to do with rubber prices, whether it is to do with the kind of demand that tires are seeing, etc. But, the rally just doesn't seem to stop in tire stocks. So I think if he does want to invest in MRF, which is probably, in terms of valuation, one of the best valuation plays within that sector, then I think he needs to buy it, keep the fact in mind that, start tracking the stock, see when it corrects and start buying on those corrections, because it's not like 3 lakh amount for MRF in any case is going to get him 3 shares or, thereabouts, 3 or 4 shares. So I think, he needs to sort of time it and keep buying a share every time he sees a fall in share price. So it's a stock I'm okay with buying, but I just think that, given the kind of price rise that we've seen in MRF, you need to sort of stagger your buying and you need to buy it on dips.
Okay, all right. That's advice that's coming in on MRF. But I think on that note, before we slip into a short break, just pull up the intraday chart of Exide. That stock was under some pressure. There's been a lot of negative talk because of electric vehicles coming in there. Intraday, that stock has recovered a goodish bit from the low point of the day. And Wockhardt, something that Ekta has been tracking very closely, that one as well is up close to around 1%, 2% as we speak. A bit of an up move is what we're seeing.
Cap index is moving up, so let's get in a CNBC TV18 exclusive at this point. Sources say that the government is keen on a consortium of large business houses bidding together for Air India's stake. The government, however, has not taken a decision on the possible demerger of international operations. Ashpreet Sethi joins in with all of the details that she's tracking on this. Ashpreet, hi, go ahead.
Well, what we pick up from sources is that at this point of time, the group of ministers, which is led by Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, has expressed concerns over whether demerger of assets and even the whole domestic and international operations of Air India should be done at all or not. In fact, we are also picking up from sources that they are pretty keen with the idea of having a consortium of business houses which can go ahead and bid and even control as far as Air India operations are concerned. But what we pick up from sources is also that in past 2 meetings, only data has been collected as to what are Air India's balance sheet like. No decision has been taken regarding any issues. In fact, there have been talks of how FDI norms could be amended going forward. Remember, right now the FDI rules are pretty clear that no foreign entity can directly invest in Air India. However, the GOM has said, and we are picking up from sources, that they might be looking at amending that so that a foreign entity could directly invest in Air India. So these are the main issues which have come up in the last 2 meetings. We're waiting for the next meeting, but remember the government has already floated requests for proposals for bankers and legal advisors, for which the deadline, of course, is October. Back to you.
Okay, all right, Ashpreet. Thanks so much for joining in and running us through all those details. So Ashpreet is on top of that one. We'll keep getting you details as and when there is an update. By the way, keep your eye out on the markets. We were talking about HDFC Bank earlier today. That one's been seeing some selling pressure, so that's moved to the low point of the day. But a couple of big names are doing well, and that explains why the Nifty is moved in the green. ICICI Bank, pull up the intraday chart. That's moved virtually to the high point of the day. Infosys as well is putting in a bit of a fight, so that one as well should be up for you in the screen. And maybe Yes Bank as well. Actually, ICICI Bank has moved very, very well, and that's what explains why, in fact, the Nifty has moved into the green. So just keep your eye out. A couple of these private sector banks moving quite well. The word go actually today, and that stock as well really seems that it can't make up its mind. It was down close to around 10% in early morning. Then it recovered a goodish bit, but we're seeing a bit of profit booking again. So just keep your eye on that stock. Volume's very, very high on that counter. But let's move on. By the way, we have some news coming in. Reliance Capital, the promoter, has released pledge on close to around 65 lakh shares. So maybe we pull up the intraday chart over there. A bit of a spike is what we're seeing on that stock. But let's go to our next caller. We have Rahul Singh, who calls us from Uttarakhand. He has investments in Manali Petro. Hi, Rahul.
Hello. Good afternoon, Aizal.
Good afternoon, Rahul ji. How can we help you? What's your query?
I am holding 8,000 shares at the rate of 34.
Oh, okay. Good. You're making money. All right.
Not much
Not
money. I am just
some money. Yeah.
Some money.
Yeah.
I bought it 1 year back.
Oh no, then you're not making money.
So now you tell me what I do.
Okay, you bought it 1 year back, Rahul. Just to understand this, you can hold it for another 1-2 years. You're okay with the time horizon if you have to hold, right?
Yeah, I don't have any other option.
Okay. All right. Okay, thanks so much for calling, Rahul. Let's come across to you, Sharmila, first. What do you suggest he does? He's wondering whether he's got into the right stock. He can hold it for a longer term, but he's wondering whether he's got into the right stock. So should he switch? Is there something better in the market for him?
Well, I think there are two ways of looking at it. One, I completely agree with you. I think, given the fact that we have a market that is giving us like new heroes every day, this seems to be a very slow moving sort of a stock to be invested in. But at the same time, if you were to look at the stock just on its own per se, then at this valuation, it sort of makes sense to hold, because you can see the stock rally up to 39.40 kind of level. So really leave it up to him, because, there is an opportunity loss when you stay invested in a stock like this, which is, going to be sort of slow to move, because I don't really see it going up to 40 in a hurry sort of a thing. But yes, I think, 40 would be sort of the level that I would look at.
Let's get going in terms of a couple of queries now. Shailesh Vyas writes to us from Gujarat. 2,000 shares of ONGC is what he holds at 250. And since 1.5 years, he's a long-term investor and wants to know whether to hold or sell that particular stock. Shailesh? Oh, okay, it's an SMS. All right, so it's a loss that Shailesh is sitting on right now. First, just wanted to discuss the technicals at this point about ONGC. Rajat, what would you recommend to somebody who already has positions in ONGC and maybe even at prices of around 250, which Shailesh does?
See, you said he's a long-term investor, and this is one stock that exemplifies that even if you hold a stock for a very long period of time, yet you actually may not make much money. I mean, look at it from the last 22 years of its listing and the kind of returns it has generated. For your show, a couple of months back, I calculated that since inception, its return had been 4.97% CAGR. So this is not a stock that you should stay put. I would say exit at current levels or on any rally and move into something that is really going to give you some appreciation. 4.97 you are better off investing your money in FD. Why equity and in this stock? Sorry, no.
Okay, all right. Sell the stock at current levels on or in any rallies. That's the technical advice that's coming in there. Sharmila, coming across to you. What do you say?
Well, I think that given where the stock price is, probably, in a sense that I feel it has bottomed. But I think, if I had to look at it as a sort of an oil and gas play, I think at this point in time, marketing companies, to my mind, make more sense in spite of the recent scare they've had with, talks that they would be asked to cut prices, etc., or there would be some mechanism to stop the kind of price rise we've been seeing on petrol and diesel. That said, I think perhaps since he's a long-term investor and his loss is so deep, it might make sense to just hang in there till that whole HPCL, ONGC sort of merger issue sorts itself out, because, in this process, he may actually end up getting shares of HPCL, which to my mind is the best play within this space anyway. So I think he just hangs in there and take it, but I don't really expect too much from ONGC per se. I wouldn't really recommend even buying at this level in spite of the fact that I'm saying the price looks to have bottomed out.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Sharmila, as well as Rajat, for joining in and taking us through all of those questions. Well, do watch out for Jubilant Food Works because that stock is showing some amount of volatility, in fact, low point of the day. Let's see whether there's any sort of incremental news. Remember that last week it was suffering from that whole bug issue, which, however, got resolved. We did have the management clarify as well on account of it. But nonetheless, that stock now seeing some amount of profit booking. That's all the time that we have on the show. Do remember, you can keep sending us your stock queries by posting it on our Money Control message board. Stay tuned. Closing bell will take you through the last hour of trade.
Asian markets, they've opened up more or less flattish to higher on the back of the positive handover that we got from the US market.
Financial stability has to be part of the Fed's mandate now because the financial economy is so big.
It's going through that expansion phase. It rewards those who buy dips and consolidation, and it rewards them big time.
Since JP Infratech was admitted to the NCLT under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, the Committee of Creditors will meet for the first time today.
There goes the bell, and it is 10,168, 169 where we have started. Tata Motors is the stock of the morning on the Nifty, starting with about 4% in terms of gains.
We still like the housing finance companies, selective NBFCs.
We will not rule out a possibility to say one or the other opportunity would exist in order to reduce the cost of borrowing and would do some kind of a refinancing.
If you have to list, do you have to first convert yourself into a company?
Yeah, that's right.
So how long can the timeline be?
It all depends on the approval from the ministry.
BEML would be something that you would consider?
We can. Market has been down about 6 odd points, 10,150 odd is where the index is at.
Okay, it's been a slow day today after the big run that we had in yesterday's trade. This is Closing Bell. I'm Anuj and with me is Surabhi. Hi Surabhi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Anuj. So what's the takeaway from today's day? I mean, nothing has moved. Nifty, Sensex, the mid-cap index. I mean, is there any trend that one can pick up?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this has been the template of this market. It breaks out and then it consolidates, sort of punishes the momentum chasers, and then has, again, you know, a fresh round of rally. The dips and consolidations are being bought into, Surabhi. I think that is one key takeaway for me. The other key takeaway is that for the large banks, there is buying at lower level. ICICI Bank, the way that's recovered from the low point, I think that's a clear indicator. But you know, once again, you'll have to buy the dips with individual stocks. I mean, look at the way individual stocks have surged in today's trade. I think that's been the other story. For the index, my sense is that, you know, the Bank Nifty is having a bit of a resistance around its all-time high. And that's leading to some bit of pressure on Nifty as well. But, you know, the breakout is intact. It's just that the follow-through is not happening right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely take your point on individual stocks. For instance, I mean, some of these consumer names like VIP down so much. VIP was the management we spoke to in the morning. They said there is a pressure on margins. On the other hand, Mahindra CIE, another company we spoke to in the morning, saying they are looking at EV opportunities. So that stock's running away. Very, very stock specific. Speaking of which, Anuj, what about Indiabulls real estate? And you made that point in the morning that maybe getting out of F&O is actually a good thing for the stock and for investors. That's how it's played out today.
Yeah, you know, the conventional wisdom in the morning was that, you know, the stock should fall and all. But, you know, it's been a different stock altogether, Surabhi. And, you know, we've seen the rally. It's a mystery stock. Of course, it's rallied from, you know, about 60 all the way up to 240, 250 now. But the point here is, the limited point I made in the morning was that, you know, now it's getting out of F&O. In that case, who would be more skittish? Those who are actually short on the stock, because, you know, now you can't be short easily. So that's the reason that, you know, I expected, you know, maybe some bit of rally in the stock. I'm surprised that it's actually rallied 5%, honestly. But being out of F&O is actually going to help in this case, because, you know, it's perpetually been in F&O ban. So that was a limited point. But yeah, I mean, 5% rally from intraday, 10% rally, a bit surprising, but then not entirely. The rally itself is not surprising. Maybe the quantum of rally could be surprising.
Okay, that's Indiabulls Real Estate 10% intraday move. On that note, let's get you the headlines this Tuesday afternoon. It's a quiet day of trade with frontline indices trading flat, Morgan Stanley's Ruchir Sharma cautions that an overheated financial market is a threat to global economic stability. In a mega CNBC TV18 exclusive, L&T's executive chairman A.M. Nayak says the conglomerate can actively consider buying stake in BEML, but certainly not in Air India. Pegs a target of 50,000 crores market capitalization for the finance business over the next 2 years. Tata Motors is in top gear after promoters buy 1.7% equity at a price of 421 rupees per share. The large trade takes the total promoter holding in the company now to 36.4%. NHAI scales down construction target for FY18 to 3,500 kilometers versus 6,000 kilometers earlier. Also confirms to CNBC TV18 that they will launch their IPO this year.
Okay, how should you position yourself in this last hour of trade? Ashwini Gujral and Mitesh Thakkar join us for that. Good afternoon. Ashwini, been a slow day, very narrow range. Thoughts on how the day has panned out and last hour trade?
Yeah, I think entire world markets have been fairly narrow ranged, but I think probably waiting for the Fed event to be out of the way. As far as banks are concerned, I think there is some amount of short covering which is happening on State Bank and ICICI Bank, and which could help out the Bank Nifty while HDFC Bank goes through a mild kind of consolidation. So my sense is that it's a good time to get long on the Bank Nifty, as well as hold on long positions on the Nifty, because whatever selling came at 10,150 thereabouts, that seems to be getting absorbed. And finally, if things are according to expectation, possibly the market will move up slowly but surely. And at some point, I think 10,180, 200 is also a resistance, and we probably need to get past that to gain some amount of momentum. As far as individual stocks are concerned, I think Kotak has moved extremely well today. So that's a buy with a stop of 1,030, target of 1,065. Kajaria Ceramics is a buy with a stop of 725, target of 750. And Chennai Petro is a buy with a stop of 445, target of 470.
Okay, a couple of buy ideas coming in there from Ashwini. Good afternoon, Mitesh. I mean, how flat can things get, right? 0.00% almost, as I say hi to you. I mean, what does one do with the Nifty positions? Is there a trade that you can think of at all right now? Otherwise, individual stocks, of course.
No, I think, see, very clearly, I think this market, I think Anuj has been highlighting this for the last number of days. I think Ashwini also has been mentioning this. This is not a market, when you're chasing momentum and making money. So I think either you hold on to your long positions, tail your stop loss to 10,115 on the spot, or else, be stock specific, which is where some kind of breakout in momentum is happening. So I think maybe stock specific is a good way to approach the market, at least in the short term. It should be more biased towards trading stocks. The recommendations which I have right now are a buy on Dabur with a stop at 310 for targets of 325, and Infratel is a buy as well. Keep a stop at 390 or just below it and look for 410 kind of target.
Okay, actually it's a big move on Kajaria Ceramics, but Ashwini, in general the sector has done well. Do you sense a fresh bit of sort of buying in this entire sector going forward?
See, this sector has done well for last 2 years. Most stocks are up 2-3 times from where they started, but definitely it looks like Kajaria Ceramics above 750 is basically getting into a new zone where the next target medium term could be even 1,000. So home improvement, particularly Diwali time, I think these are the kind of stocks which tend to pick up during this time, paints, ceramic, etc.
Oh, yes, 1,000 on Kajaria. I mean, today a lot of these stocks have done well, and just carry forward from what Ashwini said, some of these organized players in the ceramics, in the tiles, in the home improvement space have done remarkably well. I think this quarter's numbers would be really interesting to watch out for, because what the market has started to do now is bet on some of these players in terms of what their Q2 numbers could be. So I think it's just phenomenal the way some of these stocks have run up.
Okay, yeah. So tile makers generally doing well today. Though I must say there is, some sort of sharp profit booking also coming in. We just saw that one chart. Let's pull up Orient Bell as well. That one's also fallen quite a bit. Serra Sanitary is suddenly down. So yeah, a little bit of volatility continuing. Netco has also lost a little bit from the top of the day, as has Somani, as you can see. So tile makers doing well, but bit of skittishness now coming in. Okay, it is time for our Stock 360 segment. We're covering the stock from all possible angles, fundamental and technical. And on the radar today is Divi's Laboratory. Ekta has been keeping us up to speed with all the developments, and we are anticipating some clarity on Unit 2 today, right, Ekta?
Yes, absolutely. Now, Divi's Labs, the Unit 2 re-inspection is likely to end today. So maybe we could probably hear from the management themselves in terms of a press release to the exchanges about the outcome of it. Now, remember that the US FDA has been conducting a complete good manufacturing practice re-inspection.
Okay, Ekta, I'm sorry to come in over there. We'll just come back to you. I think we'll just sort of refire those graphics once. As we do that, let's also welcome in Mr. Tulsian on the show. Mr. Tulsian, good afternoon. Good to have you on Closing Bell as always. In fact, I'll just take that question with you as well. Divi's is a stock that you've been relatively more optimistic on in the pharma space. How do you look at the developments with respect to this, Unit 2 US FDA clarification?
See, I have been keeping positive view on Divi's, but not at the current price, irrespective of the clarifications and all that. If you really take the the valuation call, probably I think that it is fully factored into the price. In fact, we have 4 pharma stocks on our buying list in the pecking order of Aurobindo Pharma, Glenmark, Divi's and Wockhardt, and we will maintain the same view. But the kind of, once you start seeing the kind of volatility which we have been seeing in case of Divi's Lab, I don't think that it is really wise, even if the positive outcome seen coming in, because the stock is seen to be in the strong hands. But I won't be venturing into the buying into the stock now at the current level. Maybe those who have bought earlier on our recommendation at level of about 730 to 750, probably will advise them to go for profit booking and move to the other 3 stocks which are on our buying list.
Okay, Mr. Sen, good afternoon. The mystery stock for me has been Andhra Bank. I know you've maintained a positive stance on some of the PSU banks, but what do you think could be driving Andhra Bank? I mean, there's a big surge happening on that stock.
See, Anuj, again, reason is not known, but yes, in fact, we have been keeping the positive bias on all PSU banks for the September series, though the things have worked out partly in case of a few smaller banks like Andhra and all that, but it has, largely not worked in case like SBI and all that. But yes, we have been keeping overall positive view, but it's very difficult, because if you really if you really want to pinpoint the reason for moving this Andhra Bank, it could only be the recapitalization. I don't think that the merger talk is seen going on right now, because if you really see the situation on the asset quality front, the situation is really very precarious for Allahabad Bank and Andhra Bank. Both are seen to be moving in tandem, and both seem to be having the same quality of earnings, same asset quality patterns and all that. So difficult to pinpoint, but yes, we have been keeping positive view on PSU Bank for this series, for this September series only.
Okay, absolutely flat trends in the market. Individual stocks obviously continue to find plenty of traction. Sudeep Bandyopadhyay is also with us on the show today. Sudeep, welcome to Closing Bell. Let me toss some of the gas stocks to you. That's a big talking point. I mean, we had a foreign brokerage come out with some big targets as well, finally. GAIL, Petronet, IGL, what do you like the most? What's your pecking order?
Well, I think, if that's the stock we need to select, I'll go for GAIL. But I'm a little more bullish on the distribution companies. So Mahanagar Gas, Indraprastha Gas, these are my favorites. Overall, I think the gas sector is going through a major positive kind of infrastructure build. The national gas grid getting completed definitely is going to help both the gas companies as well as the distribution companies going forward. So for a long-term investor, I think the distribution definitely is a great play, and both and all the distribution companies in this space definitely are going to benefit out of this. Valuation wise, they have moved up quite a bit, but we strongly believe there is still a strong case for them to move even further from here. So if I have to pick one stock in this space, I will go for Mahanagar Gas. The second stock will be probably in the IGL.
Okay, Ashwini, thoughts on Tata Motors? Do you think this rally should be used to lighten up positions, or are you sensing some kind of turnaround?
Till they don't learn how to make proper good cars, nothing will happen. They can keep reducing as many costs as they want to. Their cars are shitty. So I don't like to invest in stocks where I don't like the product. I think 425, 430 is, the Brexit day low. I think it will find resistance going there. So just exit from the stock.
Yeah, BMW is not listed on Indian stock exchanges, Ashwini. So I guess you have to make do with stocks like Tata Motors and Maruti. But we'll take a break. Our closing bell money control question of the day is: Manmohan Singh says that GST rollout was a bit hasty. Do you agree with that view? Log on to moneycontrol.com and post your responses.